All right, hi everybody. I am Vizrant and I have Lindsey Boylan here with me today. Hi, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so glad we had some time to chat today.
I know. I feel like we get to check in and on Twitter, and it's always nicer to check in.
All right, so there were some things that I wanted to talk about today. The one thing you mentioned yesterday on Twitter is you were talking about your mental health, and
Yes.
recently with the news about different cities like California and parts of Texas being locked down and under curfew.
Yes.
I wanted to know how you were feeling in this moment in time.
I think I don't think anyone feels really great right now about the larger reality that we find ourselves in. And I think it has everything to do with the fact of we know, even if we don't see it, so many people are really struggling. And I think one of the most startling examples of mental health challenges, mental illness in this time period is the fact that of 1 in 4 teenagers who were polled in some recent study said that they had suicidal ideations recently. And that's obviously an incredibly high number. And, thinking about how challenging it is to be a teenager, it certainly was for me, especially being kind of a weirdo teenager like I was.
Same here.
Yeah, it's not easy. And to not have outlets, to not have a regular a program for school, for seeing friends. I mean, even just thinking of my nieces who are teenagers. My younger niece just turned 16. She's in California. It's a real challenge. And then, while we were coordinating for today,
Yeah.
the mayor of the city of New York just made a Sunday, had a Sunday presser about reopening of schools and tried to walk back some of the confusion and some of the anger and frustration about complete closures. And I think the uncertainty is as much the problem as it is having to alter our lifestyles. Because if you can't predict things, it adds so much to our sense of not having control of our lives. And I can certainly say I have my place of privilege. I have a husband who helps. He cooks. I don't, just on a very basic family level. I have a lot of options in times like this. And yet, even for me, I'm talking to my therapist twice a week. I'm like, Rochelle, these times are not easy. And she said, they're not easy for anyone, Lindsay. I'm getting calls more than I ever do. So I think it's really important to be open about it when you can. And I certainly like to be. I find it helpful for me. And yeah, I don't know anyone who's not struggling right now. If someone's not struggling with the reality of this time, that I think is more of the outlier. I mean, how do you feel?
Yeah, no, we definitely feel it too. My husband and I, thankfully, we both still have our remote jobs. So, we're doing
Yes.
okay in that regard and we feel really blessed. But I do see, and even in my city, I go outside and I see homeless people, under the bridge and they're on the
Yes.
street. And it hurts that I can't help everybody, and
Yes.
I feel that the severity of this virus and of the time when I just like
Oh
I said,
yeah.
just going outside.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would just, the reason why I was a little late, for our Zoom was because I was at a rally to protest a court case that is moving a group of men experiencing homelessness from one hotel to basically another location somewhere else in Manhattan that, doesn't solve any problems except making men feel like they have even less control of their lives.
Yeah.
And that, to your point, and that's 200 men who are really important. And there are so many people suffering.
They are. They really are. Oh my gosh. And I hear a lot of things also on the in the news about how people are equal parts scared and hopeful for this vaccine, or I guess there are several in the works, but I keep
Yes.
hearing about the oh well, everything will be okay once they release it. And I wanted to know what did you hear about that that information, and what did you think about that? about the.
Yeah. So, yeah. And I'm hearing kind of the same of what you are. And one disclosure, I'm not an epidemiologist, I'm not a scientist. So I'm like a layperson saying this. But as I understand it, there's three different, so to speak, competing vaccines that have come out of clinical trials and may have, more simple or more intricate refrigeration methods in terms of actually trying to get them to people, and what has to happen operationally to get them to people. So, my sense is that we will have a vaccine in the coming months. I think one of the biggest challenges is kind of knowing as much as we can about the long-term implications, knowing whichever vaccine is proven to be the one that we distribute to Americans, for instance, no side effects, how it affects children differently. And, I was on a podcast last week with three other women, and this kind of question about the vaccines came up. And, I said, I'll be the first to sign up to take it, and be a test case, however I could be helpful. And all three of the other women said, wait a second, I have to know what it's about. What are the side effects? I have to understand this. And, I thought about it a lot more. All three happen to be Black women. And I think the experience that Black people in this country in particular have of the medical system, and then broader communities of color, is one where they feel, for very good reason, that they can't trust it, and that they don't necessarily have a historical relationship with our government of, having their best interests looked out for. So that's all to say, we need the vaccine. We need it to come soon. But there's a lot of not just operational work that's going to have to happen in order for that to get to people, but also trust building. And that's almost more complicated because, I'll just look at my leaders in New York City's mayor and the governor of New York haven't done a great job at building trust with people.
Yeah.
And I think that's replicated for, municipalities and states across the country. So I think that's a real challenge that we're going to have to face. And I didn't fully appreciate how different people could feel about it, but rightfully so, right?
Absolutely. And speaking on New York and Manhattan, I wanted to touch on, oh my gosh, you are running again.
Yes,
I wish Oh my gosh, I wish you could have seen my face when I was looking at my phone, and I was like, I saw that and I was like, yes, she's going again. Let's go.
I think that was my some version of that was my husband's reaction too. He was like, oh my gosh, again, and I think, I like to joke about it because, we've talked about this. It's a big deal to run for office, to put yourself out there. And obviously, we weren't victorious the first time around. And I think the way I came to this particular race, why, that's probably one of the first questions people have, is after the end of our congressional race and all the ballot counting and the like this summer, I found myself walking around the city. I found myself walking around streets of Manhattan like I did, especially in my 20s when I had a lot more time and $0. To rub together. So I would just walk around and not go restaurant, hopping or anything like that, just walk and look at them. And I thought, well, gosh, this city doesn't just need my help. It needs everyone's help. We have to help the place we love recover, to help small businesses recover, to think about housing issues. We started off that way, talking about issues of homelessness. Affordable housing remains an issue, like we talked about in my congressional race, and livability, and thinking through to the future of what New York City, and especially Manhattan, which is our central business district, which is in many ways a lot of the central piece of our history and our culture in the city, not the only place, but really important. And I had spent my whole career doing that. My first decade was in urban planning, which is all about the borough president's job, which I'm running for, is all about that. And then the next decade was spent in job creation. So I just felt like I couldn't wait. I had hoped to maybe take a year off, learn a new skill like knitting or something that I could do, and then maybe do some writing. And I just found myself not being able to avoid, just getting into this, because when you see something that you know how to do and you see that your community needs help in those areas, I couldn't avoid it. So my husband was like, yeah, okay.
You have to do it.
And it's not really ever an ask thing. People have different relationships with their partners, but he was definitely like, well, you got to do it. This is what you love. You love cities. You love this city, and you built your whole career around trying to make cities work better for more people, be more equitable. There's no more important time to do that than in a tremendous challenging time like this. For instance, if we get federal aid, which hopefully we will under the next administration, even if we get all the aid we need, which we won't, there are going to be so many questions and challenges about how to build equitably, how to build sustainably, and whose needs get met. And that question of whose needs get met and who the city works for is what we were doing in the congressional. So the fight, it's still all part of the same fight. It's still me. But in many ways, I think this job is really set up for me to do it, given where my career started and where I am now. So I'm enjoying it. And, there's, I'm still very much a New York lady. And I would be so proud to do the job that New York needs me to right now.
I really hope that the people in New York, when they watch this video, if it gets over there, they see it, that they really hear what you're saying, and they really look into you more and give you a chance. Because
you're helpful. You always help me do that. So
oh, I'm so glad. I know I'm still small time, but the people who
no,
do
you're
watch,
not. Really? No, you're not.
My gosh, my my husband actually keeps saying that. He goes, oh, you're actually kind of a big deal. And I'm like, I'm not.
You are a big deal. You're a huge deal.
No, you're bigger. You're a bigger deal than I am, for sure.
No. And I think, I do also think, and part of what I talk about, what I try to do, and I think we're all still learning how Twitter works, how being a public person works, which I think will be a lifelong journey for me, as a natural introvert, who loves people, but still a natural introvert. I'm always trying to find people who I think have found an authentic way to lead and be accepting of others, but also, set their own sense of how they want to be in the world and how that plays out even in places like Twitter. And I think you do a very good job at being inclusive to people, and also still having an opinion and still, saying what you think is right, which isn't always, we always get kind of set up in this binary. And I really appreciate your leadership on that and so many things.
Well, thank you. And I really appreciate yours too, because, I have to admit, there's been more than hundreds. Okay, I'm just gonna say hundreds of times. Every time I see you tweet, I'll read something and I go, okay, I need to share this immediately, and I want to tweet something similar, to get the message out. You inspire me to want to speak more on things, and I don't care if someone gets mad and they're like, oh, well, I think just the other day, there was something, I want to pull it up, but there was something you said, and I went to retweet that immediately, and of course somebody pops in the comments well, she said that last time it wasn't that way, and I was like, that was last time. Yeah. I was like, it's different now.
Yes. Well, and I think, I think even having, I think even myself, when I think about, even a year ago, I didn't have any Twitter followers almost a year ago, maybe a little more. My mom set up my Twitter 4 years ago, a week ago to the day. And I was I was not on it. It's all absorbing, right? It kind of becomes part of the ether that you're in once you get engaged in how people talk on Twitter. But I was still learning. And I, as a kid who got picked on a lot for being kind of a weirdo, I was used to it in different settings, but I think it took me a while to adjust what that looks like on Twitter, So, I'm learning now, and I think I've learned even more, and having people like you help leave space for all different kinds of people like me is so helpful.
Yeah, I'm so glad. Thank you so much. Yeah, and that was the other thing I was going to mention about Twitter. I thought was funny is that the overlying tone I feel like on that app is like half sarcasm too.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people post jokes like so flat, and you're like, wait, hold on, is this a joke or are you being like are you being serious?
Yes.
But
Yes.
yeah, and I also see a lot of people, they say like, oh, Twitter isn't real life, but I mean, I see a lot of influence, especially like with the stimulus check. We all
Yes.
kind of, I know it's not right to gang up on people, but when we go against like, Nancy Pelosi, and we want to
Yes.
like message her and message Mitch McConnell, I feel
That's
like
huge.
that's yeah, it does make an impact. They see it. They
It's
may not
huge.
respond, but yeah, they see
And
it.
by the way, I think this is a very good, especially where the stimulus checks are concerned. I think this is a very important point to highlight the influence of Andrew Yang, of the Yang Gang, and of advancing the concept of UBI, because I don't think that, I frankly think the role of that leadership, not just Andrew, but Yang Gang, yourself included, and people who have a voice, helped us get to something, a stimulus check the first time around. And I obviously think, I mean, I was doing videos, as you know, back in the spring about $2,000 checks. And I really do think we need a basic income check every month, everyone, which is what you've been fighting for all along. I don't think we would have even gotten the slim band-aid of a check that we did if not for the leadership of people like everyone in the Yang Gang, yourself included. I think it just normalized the conversation much faster than anything else, because we were already there, we were already having it, we were already talking about UBI, we were already talking about what it would mean for people to no questions asked have a check from their government, right?
Yeah.
Which is what you've been talking about for a long time. Not enough there, but what you've been talking about, right?
Yeah, because when a government actually cares about its people that it's taking care of, you'd think a stimulus check would be a no-brainer. Like that would just be like the first thing
Yes.
that they send out, and the fact that they, are acting like we're pulling their teeth doing it is just insane to me. And I think it's really telling too
Yes.
about how disengaged they are from us. I mean, I
Well, and
heard.
how much they think that that the system is not set up to have them hear from people who are in pain, from their own people. It's very telling, to your point.
It shows how much they don't care, and how they're like, well, the feeling I'm getting is that they feel like we're dispensable. I guess is that the word? Just like,
Yeah, yeah, I think
yeah,
it's totally true. I mean, I think one of the reasons, and this is a slightly different part of the conversation, but watching our leaders and how far they feel from reality for anyone, you, me, anyone on Twitter, was really perfectly exemplified by Senator Dianne Feinstein giving a hug to Lindsey Graham after the Senate hearings, confirmation hearings for Amy Coney Barrett. And of course, that's a different issue. It's not about people getting the checks they need. But we did just see Amy Coney Barrett make the deciding vote, in terms of COVID restrictions. And it just says, hey, Americans across the country, I don't have as much connection to you as I have with the senator who's actively feeding American people disinformation about their own country and their own government and their own democratic processes. How can Senator Dianne Feinstein hug someone like that? And I think, to your point, it shows how out of touch all of Washington is and how easy it is to become that way. Because otherwise, how could anyone not be getting people monthly checks right now, given the level of pain people are in? And we're talking about making people stay home, but we're pretty much the only advanced nation in the world that has really done next to nothing to make it possible for people to do that. I mean, it's just, it doesn't make any sense, and it's totally inhumane.
yes, it's absolutely inhumane. And another thing that I was thinking about is that, you know, I feel like they're almost, I don't want to say mocking, but they're almost like, um, you know, they responded when we all got together the first time for the first stimulus check. Like when
Yes.
everybody was yelling, they were like, okay, okay, we'll do it. But then I feel like the second time people got tired. You know, we all, I mean, we're all suffering and we're all going through our stuff. And I feel like we kind of like lost hope. And that's what I was
Yeah.
kind of hearing on Twitter. Like, um, I feel a lot of, there's not a lot of fire under people right now
Yeah.
to ask and demand.
Well, and I think it does, now as you mentioned that, I think it does feel as though a lot of our attention, rightfully so, we just had a presidential election, and I was part of, a much broader, group of people who said this needs to change, we need to get him out. Um, but it's a lot easier for politicians on all sides, to focus exclusively on what's going on there and do nothing to actually help people. And that feels like it's where we're caught up. And I know there's back and forth in terms of what the Republicans want to include in any next stimulus and what it would mean for corporations' liability and the like. But people are really struggling. And I think a lot about caregivers especially. And I think, again, where UBI comes in so critically is to not disadvantage people who work in different ways. And I think caregiving is a great example of that. You and I know something about caregiving, just at a basic level as parents. But in pretty much every family, people are doing caregiving beyond caring for a child. They could be caring for a physically ailing relative, someone going through crisis and addiction, which is the case in my family, an elderly parent, someone experiencing a form of disability that requires additional help. And none of that, for the most part, is captured in helping people. So how could you actually do that? Giving people checks and not making normative judgments about the value of how they're spending their time, which in my mind would free us up to really think much more about the value of things like caregiving and how much credit we're not giving to caregivers, who are probably some of the most exhausted people across this country. And again, it's not just parents, it's people caring for parents, it's people caring for, it's people, obviously essential workers and beyond. And there's just no sense of movement on caring for those critical needs that people have.
And I saw your tweets about that and your on
I
Instagram.
don't know why I thought about
Yeah,
that 10 p.m. at night. My husband's like, what's wrong with you? You're like, what?
I'm glad you posted about that, and I reshared it because I work for an insurance agency, and I talk to people with their Medicare. I don't handle Medicaid, but I handle
Yeah.
Medicare, and
Yes.
I had so many people. I handle 600 calls a day, and I had the
Oh
bulk
my
of my
gosh.
calls. Yeah, I had the bulk of my calls be about people fighting for $144 rebate. They're
Yes.
fighting for that small amount of money, and I'm
Yes.
over here going, I can't, like, I mean, I'm trying to help them, but I can't like make that go away. And I'm like fighting
Yes.
back, crying, because I'm like,
Oh, it's heartbreaking.
what is going on with our system?
It's heartbreaking. And I think a lot of this, I don't want to say it's hidden, because I don't want someone to hear this and think that, their pain is hidden, or that they're not asking for help loud enough. But I'll give you an example of something I see a lot in New York City. When we talk about housing insecurity, and we talk about poverty in Manhattan, which everyone views as this tremendously wealthy place, I would guess now, especially, more than half of our people are severely rent burdened, meaning they can barely afford to stay where they are, and they're on a extremely fixed income. A lot of those people are former caregivers, a lot of older women, a lot of seniors. And even in the congressional campaign, I would, part of the challenge especially when you're in shelter in place, is to reach people and hear what their concerns are. I would call people and they hadn't interacted with a human being in weeks. Or there was one gentleman who had just gotten out of the hospital. He had had COVID, and he was supposed to be getting meals delivered and they weren't coming. So we figured that out for him. But um, it's, to your point, it's heartbreaking, and it's not, none of it's working. And in a time where there's so much pain and so much created poverty, largely because of our extreme inequality and how ineffective our government has been, in many ways by GOP design. But how do we help them? We get them fucking money. Excuse me, we get them money. Like that's the, I know I know. And, but people need money. Like, they don't need to go through, and I experienced this in New York State, weeks-long process trying to explain their unemployment situation, especially if they're, for instance, an independent contractor who works in the beauty industry, for instance. I had lots of friends who were hairstylists or who work in the film and tax industry, film and TV industry. And I had a ton of friends who like couldn't figure out how to even get the unemployment unlocked. And also that was because the system was totally overloaded with the volume. How could we have helped people through that? Just giving them checks, giving them regular checks. And the amount of unproductive time, even once we had the government, the wheels moving to have increased emergency unemployment, would have been much better served and much less costly had we just given people checks of emergency support, which is UBI. I mean, this is, I need to put Andrew and other, esteemed leaders like yourself and Yang Gang on like some, notes so I can see if people are talking about this. But I hope you're saying this is what we've been talking about all along. This is what we've been talking about, and we need it now. And people understand it because we've been talking about it, right? I mean, I don't know if you're taking, there's no victory laps right now, but I hope at least it feels that what you're fighting for has been validated.
Yeah, it does. It definitely does. I feel like every single day I see more and more people speak up and feel brave enough to ask and demand for it, and not feel like they have to cry anymore, like or be deserving of it. Because that's the other thing is that I've noticed from the older generation is that they say if you don't suffer for it, you don't deserve it, and that's not true. Like you can have something and you don't need to have earned it first. Like
yes. Well, and also, that absolutely. I hope that our at least evolution of understanding mental health challenges and how critical they are, how important they are, how severe they are, says that you don't have to experience tremendous pain to be deserving of help, right? So that's like one side of this. And then another one, I saw this on a graph this morning, which ended up in the Financial Times, and I tweeted about it, and it said, a hotel mom and dad, and it was some quip about how younger people, to describe the economic challenges, are living at home. And it was kind of, in a way, poking at young people. And just as an aside, and I think it goes without saying, a lot of the progressive movement, which I consider everything from supporters of Andrew Yang to supporters of Bernie to supporters of Elizabeth Warren, and people who are really trying to change things and deal with inequality, which I think that's what unites all of us, right? Is the system is bullshit, and it's set up to serve some people. And how can you talk about everyone doing their fair share when we've created an economy that's destroying our environment, that makes it impossible for young people to succeed, and where there's so much uncertainty about the future? I mean, every generation obviously has its challenges, but it's really short-sighted to kind of say, well, I had a heart, so you should too, especially given the way that technology and financial markets are creating at a faster, more extreme pace have and have-nots than at any other point in history. 600 and some change billionaires have more wealth than a majority of Americans. That is unbelievable. And And I think a lot of that has to do with how our system is set up to sort of perpetuate these outcomes. And that's another thing that I think, Andrew and people who really subscribe to humanity first get intuitively. It's saying what systems have we set up for people to fail, the vast majority of people, and how do we think about what we want? What are the outcomes we want? And how do we redesign the system?
And speaking on that, I know that a lot of people are also, they've been asking me to, like, talking about future plans is everything. I mean, that's the foundation for moving forward. But I've heard a lot of people also ask the question of how do we execute this? How do we actually get everyone on the same page to move as one unit? Because that's the hardest part I find, is trying to get everyone
Yes.
to collab.
Yes. I think, I don't know if it's like the kind of the way that my life has taken shape, or kind of my, the things that have happened to me, but I find that a severe crisis and a challenging time is absolutely where you can actually change things. That's where change comes from. I mean, people talk a lot about FDR, obviously complicated man of his time, a lot of challenges, particularly with racism. But people talk about his ability to expand the social and create that, and why that happened. That was in the shadow of the Great Depression, which we are absolutely in. We are absolutely in a depression. The short-term nature of election cycles, there's very little incentive, unless someone is just a very independent thinker and courageous leader, for them to do the right thing and to think big about the future instead of the 2 years before they get reelected, which is, kind of why I run against Congressman Nadler originally. And I think a lot of people from our generation, when you're going to run and do it.
Yeah.
But I think now is the only time when change happens. I think when there's limited resources and we have to make very tough choices about the decisions we're going to make, this is when we can actually see change. And I really think that this is the opportunity, better than any time, to usher in basic income. Because I'll just go back to New York's unemployment system debacle. I mean, I had people in my community who were waiting for calls for weeks, to get 5 or 6 weeks just to get their emergency unemployment after having not worked that entire time. Having unclear guidelines to eviction stays in the state and the city, and really having no sense of when we were going to open up again. And that's extremely scary. It's destabilizing of our sense of government's ability to deal with our issues. And I think that this is the moment that you seize and say, the way to counteract that, the way to get past the idea that the way we're going to save small businesses is to create loans that small businesses can't even use, is to allow people to get the emergency assistance, to get a basic income that they can live on, and have restaurants and small businesses and the like weather the storm without these bizarre disincentives to artificially, hold off things that are going to happen regardless. I think the best way to deal with that is just to give people money. Give people $2,000, not $1,200 a month. And you want to talk about economic engine? What was the latest BS that people were saying was an economic engine? Oh, the governor was talking about. I was the economic development secretary for him, so I know when he's bullshitting. The air tram is an inefficient, at best, disconnected system to get people to the airport through Queens was going to be an economic engine for the state of New York and the city particularly. No, an economic engine to help shift the economy and to help people survive this time and recover, better off or build back better, like he, riffed off of our recovery work in Puerto Rico, the title, interestingly enough, would be to just give people money. Just give people money. Just give people money. And I think so. I think that is the ball game, frankly, to say, look how much failure has happened in trying to design things that don't fit small businesses, don't fit people struggling the most. They fit probably K Street lobbyists, clients who are big corporations and need the flexibility or need the consistency in large PPP loan, setups, and say, no, we need to get people money. That's how we're going to recover. And we need to give people the flexibility to make decisions on their own. And I think there's a lot of academic background behind this to say that if you give people money, they can make good choices for their lives. I mean, I have a friend who runs a really important water utility, supporting water, paying water bills for people, a nonprofit that does this work, and I'll send you the link afterwards if we can plug her somehow.
Oh yeah, actually,
but she says,
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
no,
the way your camera is set up, I was just thinking about it, like the wall that's right there over here on this side, I could put her information on
I would love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So her whole argument is give people money.
Yeah.
They know what to do. And actually it's people who are strapped for cash, who have very little money, who manage their money the best. And on the spectrum of my own life and what I've seen, because I'm what they would call a class trader, so to speak. I'm someone who's been on all sides of the economic equation, and I've had a lot more opportunity than anyone else in my family. And I think my dad, who's an accountant, worked really hard to be very thrifty about things, and it's because he had to be. It's because my family had to be. I think, and that's just my example, my privileged example. I understand that, but this idea that people don't know how to manage their own money is, I don't even know what to say, racist, sexist, colonialist,
Classist.
All of them. Yes.
And also, it's funny. I heard a quote. I don't think I'm saying. I have to look it up. I'll fix it. I'll fix it in post. But the quote was saying how if someone, like for example, like if someone is accusing you of something that you've never done and that you never will do, but they're really like passionate about trying to paint you that way, that's just their projection of what they are. Yeah, of what they're already doing or what they've already done. Yeah. And I thought about that and I was like, the government, I'm saying broadly, like the people higher up in the government, they're going on and on about how people can't be trusted with large amounts of money, to like what you were saying, how that they're really underestimating how well we can actually manage a very small budget. And it makes me go, well, if they're saying that about us, then that must mean they're not managing their money well.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. It's a projection. And I think it's a total projection. I mean, look at how some GOP senatorial candidates in Georgia have manipulated their, advanced knowledge of the severity of COVID to basically game the market and sell and buy based on the American people's future pain, which is a total crapshoot. People who are living hand to mouth, which is a lot more people now in this country, don't have time for the bullshit. They don't have time for the machinations of how they're going to take advantage of someone else, their fellow American. But who does have that kind of time? People who have been in the political game for a really long time, have become more acquainted with their colleagues in Washington than their constituents at home. So to your point, I think in a lot of ways it's a projection.
Yeah, I really feel like now more than ever, it's they're secretly telling us like what's really going on, and what's going on is they're all in debt, and they are spending money like crazy, going almost nowhere, and making really
Yeah.
poor decisions for everybody else, you know,
Yes.
and it needs to stop for sure. And that's why I'm
Yes.
excited you're running again, because you're going to help clean everything out.
We can't, and you can't, especially, for you, and you don't need my advice, but, you're going to run and you're going to kick ass and you're going to inspire so many other people to do it. And of course, would it be nice to have won? Absolutely. Yeah, that would have been nice. But life isn't always nice, and you have to be prepared to fight the good fight again and again and again. And it's exactly at that time after you lose, and this is for all women or for all people who don't feel like they're seen in their political representation. When you lose, that's exactly when you double down and say, I finally built my name a little bit. People know they can trust me. They know me for my advocacy. They know me for showing up. That is the time you have to dig in. Would it have been maybe within a few months? In other circumstances, probably not. I probably would have taken a year off, so I didn't have as many gray hair, and I didn't like death. But
Sorry.
no, mine is doing the same thing, but she's got her headphones on and she's watching this.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, let's show us.
Yeah, I'll show you my baby. Honey, bring John. Bring John. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I love, of course.
Let's have John.
He knows he knows his mama's doing something important.
Here, my baby.
Oh.
I love you. So, this is Mr.
Oh my
John.
gosh, so gorgeous.
Oh,
hello, sir.
Get the back up here.
John, I see his face, yeah.
Oh, I know. Let's sit up. Let's sit up. Say hi.
Hello. Yes. Let me see what else I have. I'm trying to think of all the things my daughter liked.
Look, John.
Ooh, this lights up.
You like it?
It used to light up. It doesn't light up anymore. There.
Ooh, look at the pretty lights, John.
Look. He's like, yeah, okay, lady.
Oh, he has maracas.
Ooh, those are the best.
Look at
Those
that,
are
John.
the best. He's so gorgeous.
Thank you. Oh, he's so happy. He's shaking.
Exactly. Well, and also there's that feeling you have, like if I would hear my daughter crying, you're like, God, I gotta, you know what I mean? Like it has that natural, innate feeling of needing to do something about it as a mom, right? Or as a parent.
Oh gosh, I feel so emotional. Like I'm like looking at all of us in the screen, and the one thing I wanted to tell you, I was so excited to talk to you today, because when I saw your video, I watched it like 10 times. Like I watched it over and over and over, and I'm like, I'm gonna do this too. Like I want to do this because I want to fight for little babies, our children, our future. Like there's so much to do. There's so much that has to be done, and then I get to see your video, and I feel empowered all over again, just like the first time,
Well, that's like how we're going to do it. We keep each other on focused. It's so easy to get, you lost, you suck, blah, blah, which is kind of funny. If you can kind of laugh at yourself, it is kind of funny. And you just got to keep going, in the scheme of things. There's too many people who don't have a platform, especially women, to say, I need help. And so it's our job to make sure that they have a platform through you,
And I was going to ask you, with this campaign, how do you feel where you approach it differently? Like, is it like, I know you mentioned before, like, you said that you were getting started again, and we're excited to go again and try again. But from a campaign point of view, what's changed and what stayed the same?
Oh, yeah. So it's weird to be the candidate. Like I still have, I love my branding and all the stuff we did, because it reminds me of how hard so many people worked. So I have that all around, but it's so strange to see your face everywhere. It's so strange to see your name everywhere. it's a weird feeling to be challenging the system and have people kind of come at you that you're like, hey, wait, I'm here to help. Like, no, you don't understand. I'm trying to help. And that was a real adjustment. It took me, it's like, I try to explain this. That felt like coming out of that felt like my first bad breakup. Like in New York, I was like, oh, I had to move out. I lived with this guy and I lived together, and then you start over again. And now I just feel the things that hurt or the things that you're not used to that kind of give you pain, they never hurt quite the same way the next time, right? You're kind of like, well, I've seen this before. I can be an adult about it, and I can help the people around me so that it doesn't affect them. You know, just because it affects me, I'm further along in getting it, how to deal with it, and then protecting the people in my life who love me or who are working for me. And that is much easier this time around. You know, the first time you do anything, it's a real trip, and especially when you're running for Congress. And I felt like I knew what was required and what would happen because I had been in government and, you know, in this broader world, interested in this broader world my whole life. But it's very different to be the candidate and to step out from, you know, making a powerful person look good and doing the work to make something work, policy or program or whatever, which is what I did most of my career, than it is to say, I'm here, I'm the person now. And the longer I've been doing it, I feel like I can be more myself, which I think you see, I see it. And when I talk about caregiving, when I make things personal, when I talk about things that have happened to me, having a miscarriage this summer, all of these things are things I want to express because it's part of why I'm doing this. And that I didn't feel the confidence to do that last time because I was kind of like, oh, this is what a candidate does. This is what a woman candidate does. She's supposed to cut her hair. And I cut my hair and I hated it. You know, the whole thing, like where you're not confident because you don't know what the expectations are. But then once you've been through it, you're kind of like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And so that's really different this time. And it's a joy to have to come into it this way. And it feels, you know, I spent all my 20s kind of trying to help cities work, make this city more livable. And it kind of feels like a return to that. You know, I bought my bike with my first tax return for my first real job, and it's still in my hallway. And now I bike a lot over the city to kind of check and see how it's coming back together, or what needs help and what's struggling. So it feels like a return to home in a lot of ways. And maybe I can do it more naturally me this time. And I think hopefully it doesn't take other women that like first time to be comfortable with themselves. But it was a very different experience to have your face and name everywhere, and it took me a while to get that.
And was that bike the one in your hallway? Is that the one in the video?
So it's not in the video because that's like our public biking thing.
Oh yeah.
So it's so funny. We did the video and I was like, should I bring Flash? That's my bike's name. She was my first best friend. I didn't have a couch for the 9 of 10 apartments. I didn't have a bed beyond my mattress, but I had a bike. That was the one thing I kept through everything. So when they talked about doing the video, and you're going to see a friend really quickly. What's going on? Say hi.
Hi.
John, say hi.
Isn't so cute?
Hi.
So when we did the bike in the video, yeah, ask Daddy to make it.
No,
Say nice to meet you. No, I can't make it. I got to finish my thing first. Okay. I'll make it in about 15. I'll make it after I'm done, okay?
Okay.
Popcorn. But they wanted me to do the city biking system to show that people can use it, which is great. And they were like, well, you don't need a helmet for it, do you? I'm like, I am not getting on a bike without a helmet and sending that message because, you know, one of the top emergency room issues in the city is traumatic, you know, injuries from bike accidents and the like. So I was like, I'm not. So we got my helmet, and at some point I'll post a picture of my bike because she's very important to me.
Oh,
this is my daughter wearing a buffalo wing from Buffalo, New York.
Oh my gosh. It's
when I was in economic. Okay, I'll come out. Hey. She knows. They know. It's like your son. She may be.
Okay, so I know your daughter definitely was asking for your time, so I definitely don't want to like hold you up for too much longer because I got Mr.
No,
John
we're
here.
fine. We're
His
fine. No, we're fine. She should learn to wait a few minutes for me to make her popcorn.
oh is that what she wanted?
Excuse me. She's a little comedian. She's a little comedian. This is her two-person act.
Oh my goodness, she's so
We're two's
cute.
company. That's our thing.
Mr. John is the
No,
singer
baby.
when I'm on the phone, when I'm taking my calls. He's like, "Hi, everyone."
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
He's so cute. He's gorgeous. He's
Oh,
gorgeous.
thank you so much. He's just learning how to say
Yeah, everyone
mom.
can see my buffalo hat.
Hey, it's a
Okay,
party.
you did it. Go out there.
This quarantine has been the worst for me. I remember I was like looking in the mirror and I was like, I have to change something. And I was like,
Oh yeah.
okay, let's
Yes.
go.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I
So,
think we all were. You know,
yeah.
you get kind of stir crazy, and it's obviously it's a privilege to be able to get stir crazy, also working remotely. But you know, we wake up and our bed after it's made becomes my husband's desk, and then you know, city apartments, and then I come into the other bedroom and this is my office and everything. But you know, we're all reinventing how we do everything.
Yeah. And how have you been able to find relaxation like during this time? Because I know that like just a couple weeks, I want to say like a week and a half ago, here
Yeah.
in Oklahoma, we got a lockdown. So we
Yes.
couldn't leave the house after like 11, except if it was for essential items only. But if you were like on the street, you know, they would be like, hey, you got to like, you know, go home. Like, what are you
Oh
doing out
yeah.
here? So,
Yeah.
what would you
Yeah.
say are the best ways to kind of center? How do you keep yourself grounded during this time?
So I had always, you know, I do a lot of yoga because it kind of gets my body moving. For me, that works. But I did find some really good apps. I think Calm is very good for guided meditations. You know, you can be kind of non-denominational. It can be broadly spiritual or self with good music, whether it's classic rock or it's, you know, classical. There are a ton of different ways to do it. So I probably do some just 5-10 minute meditations 3 or 4 times a day. Just because, you know, it's so easy to get your heart rate going, right? Because something happens, you hear about something in the news, you're very worried about something. So it's kind of good for me to recenter myself. And then even, you know, my team last time, and I'm sure this time will be the same, they kind of make fun of me because I really like aromatherapy. So I literally have lavender, and you know, in my debate you could see like there was one time where, you know, I went like this and my staff was like, did you really do that? I'm like, yeah, I'm not hiding this is lavender oil. The first time I used it when I was in labor, because they're like, well, we could give you the meds or lavender. Well, that didn't end well for me, but I did find it very calming. So I use a lot of aromatherapy, candles, and it's nice to kind of treat yourself. You run out of a candle and then you try a new scent. And, you know, that's a way without spending a lot of money to feel like you've started something new. Like I did some kind of forest recently, even though I'm in the center of the city. And then I have a few, so I'm originally from San Diego, and I have a few you know, artists that I found on Etsy, you know, like the beach, or, you know, a few things like that kind of, you know, small bird that kind of just calm me. So that really helps me. And then the other thing, you know, at the end of the day, at least running for office, you kind of feel like you're constantly you could feel like you're constantly on defense, and I wasn't getting yoga or obviously meditation or walking. So I do try to run a bit, and it helps a lot. Like sometimes my husband's like, have you run yet? Have you done the yoga yet? I'm like, are you saying I'm being you know, whatever. It helps a lot. What about you? What are your tricks of the trade?
Well, we are so similar because I have Himalayan salt crystals like everywhere in my house.
Mm-hmm. See,
And you just put some of that oil on top and it smells the
It's
whole
full.
house. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And it just kind of, it calms you and it gives you, even grounding you in the moment that you're in. It says, okay, like one step at a time. You know, we don't have to former triggered memory of a bad time or something like that, which I in therapy, I work a lot on, trauma responses. I think we all have them. Surrounding you with, lavender for me, or having a cactus that I cannot kill around me to remind me that, life is going on is very helpful.
Yeah, I'm actually going to invest in some more like plants in the house, because I've realized having something green
Yes.
around makes you feel more like close to nature, more at peace. And
So helpful.
yeah, I didn't realize how helpful it was. I was like, wow, my psyche really needs this. Like,
Oh, it so helps. And I would say, like, I use air plants, which is very hard to kill them, succulents and cacti. So, like, I can be not as attentive as I should be, and they're still here.
they're still
So I started
going.
kind of lazy in the plant world.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, no, like a few people have bought me orchids over the years. I'm like, that really is stressful. That is not a good look for me, because the orchid always dies. Not for me. Not that I don't like them, but I don't have a good history with keeping orchids alive.
Oh my gosh, same here. I can look at it wrong and it'll die. I'm like,
I
okay, I'm
know they
sorry.
never come back. People are like, oh, they always rebud. Just give them time. Like, they just are never coming back for me. That's just no. Once they're done flowering, it's over.
Yeah. For me, they're like,
Yeah.
I'm out. Sorry.
Yeah, they're like, the energy in here is just not good for me as an orchid.
Yeah.
Cactus and succulents and
My pH is
air, and actually all those things on Etsy. Yeah, I love Etsy because, the little things, or, holiday gifts I want to get a family member, can go online and buy it from probably a woman who's running her own business from her house. And it means a lot to be supporting her. It means a lot more than it does to be supporting a big box retailer.
Hashtag support small businesses.
Yes, exactly. All those things I just showed you were all from Etsy, and they're like my relaxation team.
I love that. I really love that. Oh my gosh. And I actually have been doing that too. I've been trying to shop small as well. I don't have it yet, but I recently ordered 2 pieces of art from 2 friends of mine who,
Oh, I love it.
yeah, they do like ink art. Like, it was one of them just does pen only, and then another person does more anime, like marker style. So I was like,
how cool.
I have to. I was like, it's time. I gotta support you guys. I gotta buy all your stuff. Like,
absolutely. And when you have something from a friend who's an artist, it's just that much more meaningful. It's the best. It really is. And it's especially the anime world. I mean, I was a huge, this is going to sound so basic to you, but Sailor Moon, you're like, that's gateway anime. But I was like such a Sailor Moon fan in high school.
I know why we get along.
Like,
we are like
doll,
the same person.
all of
Lindsey.
them.
Oh my gosh. Lindsey. Oh.
I saved all my dolls because I never played with them. I never took them out of the package. I never played with their hair, and I gave them to my daughter, and the clothes are gone. Nothing. The hair is cut. The clothes are gone. I'm like, this is part of. This is part of how it goes. This is a part of calming.
Oh my gosh, I love Sailor Moon too. That whole series was one of my first with Pokemon. Like, that was my thing.
I loved it.
I was like,
I loved it.
Yeah, it was like, I was like, okay, when I turn 16, I'm gonna become a Sailor Scout.
Yes. I mean, I loved it. I was such a super fan. I watched the show. I have a VHS tape I'm going to try and show my daughter. I'm sure she's going to be like, Mom, what is this?
Yeah,
but I loved it. Yes.
Oh my gosh, I hope she loves it. I hope she's not like, oh, this is so uncool. Right?
So funny. I'm not surprised.
I actually tried
showing... Well, she's definitely like, No, go ahead.
Oh, no. You were talking first. Go ahead.
I was just saying, so now she has some of these shows where they've redone the show that was our show. Like, there's a Saved by the Bell. And all these other, now they're coming out with a live action Little Mermaid, which I'm actually really excited about. We saw the Mulan one. Um, but she's definitely like, oh, is that the vintage one from when you were a kid? I'm like, oh my God.
My heart. Oh my.
Vintage.
Vintage. I had that moment the other day. So I found a toy that I used to have when I was a kid, and I ordered it off of eBay, and my heart broke when it said, okay, I said a rare vintage Russ toy, and I went, vintage?
Oh my God.
I was like,
no. Oh my God, I know, right? You're like, no, that's not what this is. No. Between that and I collected Sanrio, which is like Hello Kitty and My Melody and Twin Star and all those Kuropi. I had a real fascination.
Oh my gosh. Now I have to ask you, now this is big, because I've been throwing this idea around, but I kept going, no, it's too weird, no one's gonna go for it, but I'm gonna ask you.
Yes.
So I am in the process of creating my campaign video, my first one for 2020.
Amazing! Yay!
Thank you. And I've been trying to take a lot of notes from what I already see out there from other people, and I was like, I need to kind of appeal to Gen Z this time. I need to go the anime route. Like, I need to throw some theme songs
That's not
in
weird
there.
at all.
It's not weird?
I love it already. I'm intrigued.
Oh my gosh. Now I have a big ask, and I don't know if this is too big, if it's crazy. It's crazy. I'm crazy. But I was wondering if in the future, when I am filming certain scenes, could I actually have you in there as kind of a callback?
Love it. Yeah. Of course. I would love. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. I would love that. I'm all for it. That's badass. I would love to. Okay, I would love to fight crime with you in a scene in your video. Yes. I would love that.
Okay, perfect, because that's what I was thinking. I was like, the fact that you were talking about Sailor Moon and Sanrio, I was like,
God, okay, I loved it.
Yeah, we need to do something with those concepts.
I may have to bring, for our next talk, before it. Oh yes, I'll bring like one of my Sailor Moon. Yeah, I would love that. I would be so honored. Oh, I would love it.
Yes.
And I love that you're getting ready to do this, your first video shoot. That's amazing. That's exactly what we need you to do.
Thank you. I felt the pressure. One of my friends who's running for Congress, she had released hers a couple of months ago, and I was like, I'm late. Yeah. I was like, these people, I mean, they're going to get mad at me. They're like, where's your, when are you going to announce it? And I'm like, I'm trying to move fast. I'm trying. It's hard.
Well, sometimes, I mean, so what I would say, so we launched a video, and I think I was the last entrant, and I probably will be, to our race. But when you have idea in your head about why you're doing what you're doing, and you have a thought that's germinating, and sometimes the right moment has to meet the idea, and so like doing it at the right time is kind of irrelevant in the scheme of things, in my view. Like, if you have something that you're trying to achieve, mm-hmm. and it takes a certain amount of passion with what's going on, that's the important thing in my view.
Oh my gosh, yes I oh my gosh, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's hard to kind of plan this alone almost, because like I met with local leaders too to talk about what, my path moving forward, and I realized that I can't do this alone. I need other people who have already a presence to kind of vouch for me, because that was the hard part that I actually I'm gonna edit this part out. I met with Kojo's team here. Yeah, there's a lot that they told me that I'm not supposed to share like publicly yet, obviously, because that's their thing. But he was telling me how oh well, you have to go out there and go to the meetings and talk to people, and I was like, yeah, but I also kind of feel like I need to have that introduction of someone to say, hey, she's cool. Like, I don't want to just
yes
and be like that random person standing in the corner like, hi, I'm here to like be elected, I'm here to run for, none of you know me.
But the one thing I will say, and I think it goes to your question that you asked me, like, what's different this time? Yeah. I would try and talk to myself at the beginning of my congressional, knowing what I know now, and say, don't worry about waiting for someone to welcome you to your leadership. Just do it. And like, yes, you want to like try and reach out to people, but if you don't get the reception you want from the quote unquote local leaders, don't let that dissuade you. Just go forward. And I think that people are actually sad. It's a sad statement on our leadership. People are shocked when you just show up and listen for a while. They're like, oh, she was listening. I'm like, well, what did you what has been your normal experience of people in a leadership role, just like not listening to you and not taking what you said are the pain points in your life and trying to do something about it? It's sad, but don't let anyone, hopefully people will welcome you with open arms like they should, because you're wonderful and because you're trying to help. But if they don't let people dissuade you, just go forward. And that was one of the biggest takeaways, I think, in hindsight. I would probably worry a lot less than I already am. Like, well, if that person doesn't like me, there's 1,000 other people that I could focus on,
That's so
and there's
important.
usually a reason why people in elected office or local leaders won't like you. And it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with maintaining their power.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Sometimes, I don't want to assume that it'll be like that in your case, but if it is, my main point is don't let it dissuade you, because it's irrelevant. It's nice to have, but it's irrelevant for you trying to help people.
It's true. Thank you for that. I have to keep that in mind, because I do feel that, like, that kind of not disappointment. What is it? That discouragement almost. Like when I meet new people and they're kind of like whatever, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, and it's like the whole system is frequently, I think that's the power of the progressive movement, is people are saying, well, wait a second, who said that I had to kiss this one person's ass my whole career in order to make a difference in my community? Like, who said that was the case? It's also on substance, because we haven't done nearly enough to help people in their pain points. But the other piece of, I think, the movement, emerging, continuously powerful and emerging movement, is who says that this is the way to help people just by, following the leader. I mean, we clearly have made some mistakes with our current leadership. So why would following them lead to a better outcome?
Yeah, that's a great point. That's amazing. And also, I think I asked you this last time on our last call. I said, to those who don't know of you yet, or know little and only seen know little bits here and there about you, for your current campaign, if you, let's say someone says, okay, well, why would you be the best choice for to be borough president? And let's say this person has not read up on you a lot. What is the one thing you would say to not necessarily to convince them, but to just say, this is what I'm about, and here you go?
This job, Manhatten Borough President, is all about the land use zoning and the power of urban planning to help people. And I've been building my whole career to do exactly that. First decade in urban planning, second in job creation. It's all about how are we going to save New York and how are we going to make it better for more people. And that's the challenging moment we're in. And this is a job that can become more than it ever has been. It can be a bully pulpit against the governor, against the mayor, with the governor, as long as they're on the side of people, and as long as they're on the side of changing and dealing with extreme inequality, climate change, and helping the city recover. And, there's no better person for that. See, I wouldn't have said that last time. I wouldn't have said there's no better person. I would say, like, ooh, that feels a little bit too much, but you got to do it. And it's true in this case for this particular job. And so you're going to do that when you run.
I will. And I feel a lot more confidence coming from you when you said that too. I was like,
yeah.
Oh, you said that. I was like, yeah, okay. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. And it's just the truth in this case. See, I have my lavender oil. Periodically, I like to smell it.
Oh my gosh. Lavender is my favorite too. I love it. It's like, I have little plugins for lavender.
Yeah. Oh, Oh, that's so good. That's so good. It really, it helps. Ever since I had my daughter, they're like, here's a lavender patch. I'm like, well, it didn't make me not feel the pain,
Yeah.
but I'll keep the lavender idea.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Oh my gosh. Yeah, and you know, my son here, I don't know if you can still see his head bobbing up.
Yeah.
He's still here. But he actually, I use it on
No,
him all the
not right
time.
now.
Oh,
Oh God. And it calms him, right? Get him tired, or like an Epsom salt bath with some lavender. Oh my gosh, a bath. My husband's like, you're a lady from another time. You love to take baths. I'm like, yes, of course. Who doesn't?
I know, right? They're the best.
And they're really calming for kids. You know, it's wonderful. Or adults. We all use the same calming mechanisms.
It's true. Now, I wanted to, oh my gosh, before we continue, I wanted to thank you again for, coming on to my channel and talking with me and chatting with me, talking about all this. And I kind of wanted to wrap things up on a very spicy note. I'm not even gonna play. It's gonna be spicy. I want to know, let's pretend we have like 60 seconds with Nancy Pelosi, like pretend she's right in front of you. Yeah.
Yes.
What would you say? You could say anything. And what would you say to her, like right now, about everything?
I would say it's your time to retire. That's the first thing I would say. It's other people's turn to take on the mantle of leadership. In the first half of your career, you experience the same force of people not, giving you the opportunity to lead in the way to. Now's your time to pass the torch. It's not about age, but it is about needing to make a change, and you are not going to lead that. The best thing that you can use is the entire remainder of your political capital to try and get people emergency BI on a monthly basis, and then pass the torch. I think that's there's so many things we need, but we're not going to get the change we need under the current leadership. I really believe that. Or I wouldn't have run for Congress, and I wouldn't be progressive, which I am. It's her time to pass the torch, and I would say that to her face.
Oh my gosh, that is awesome. I love that, because I want to, like, I'm excited. I'm excited to drop this video and have everyone see it and share it, because I need them to hear us. I need them to know that, we're not just all talk and no action. Like, I'm not trying to like incite anything or anything like that, but I am trying to say that I know they don't take us serious, because
no, they don't.
They know we'll probably forget, or we'll die down the energy.
They call us the fringe. They call us the far left. It's so, if people just even understood the number of people, the diversity of experience that is behind this movement, they wouldn't be laughing, And
I feel like they have such a disconnect from everything that's going on, that so far that I don't even know how they could do their jobs properly if they're not having the accurate information on how everyone's doing, economically, emotionally, actually.
No. Yeah, I mean, I know these are small things, and optics are not substance, but it matters. They can't still be having welcoming ceremonies that, cost, I don't even know how much, for new members of Congress. The Democrats and Republicans alike shouldn't be having those kinds of, expensive meetings. Yes, in a few minutes. And it's time. It's time for new leadership. He's like, what does she have on her head? It's an authentic buffalo wing. And now what's on my head?
It must stay on mommy's
head. No. Okay. When they're 6, you like eye contact 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it still works. Sometimes it works. Clearly.
It's so cute. Oh my goodness. I love your hat.
She's really into it because she knows I'm with you doing this. Usually she's like, Mom, why do you have these three? Okay. Give me a few minutes.
My buffalo.
Okay, bring it with you and meet me out there.
Oh, yeah.
You're gonna be like, does she have? Is this a buffalo wing hat?
Oh, I didn't know it was a hat. I thought it was just a stuffed buffalo.
Oh, it's a hat. It's like the cheese head in Wisconsin. You know, this is a buffalo wing hat. And so when I was the economic development secretary for the state, I would travel all over the state, and I love promoting New York. And I think part of this job actually is going to be on promoting New York City. But that is a buffalo from Buffalo, New York, buffalo wing. And a dear friend of mine gave that to me. So I used to keep it in my office when I worked for the state. And now I keep it near and dear to my heart for my daughter to use it.
I love it. It's so fun.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh. So I think we talked about a lot of good things. You know, my biggest goal is that I want people to watch this, and I don't want them to judge you anymore by the past and the past videos, because I know it's always going to come up at some point, and I feel so bad. But like I need people to be able to like acknowledge things and then like let them go and be like, okay, this is where we're at now.
Absolutely. And I love that. And I appreciate you, and let's keep doing this. The next time, hopefully, you'll have launched, or we'll be talking about your launch video and be doing more fun things.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And I will be definitely keeping an eye on everything that's going on with you. And I'm continue to support you. I mean, like anything you need, you let me know, and I'm there. Like I'm so excited.
You're amazing. No, I feel that you're amazing, and we're going to help each other and help so many others too.
Thank you so much. It's such
Thank
a pleasure
you.
talking to you, Lindsey.
It's always good to see you.
Yes, well, it's good to talk to you too. I'll text you again, okay?
Yes, please.
All right.
Please.
Wait, hold on.